All right, guys, let's get right back into it. Another edition of running back rankings. We're going into week 2 here. Let's get it started. Start with the King. King Henry, Derrick Henry, the man that knows no time, no age, doesn't, well, that sounds bad. He's really good at 31 years old. Obviously, you're starting him. Christian McCaffrey, I'm throwing him right up into the must-start category as well. You got Bijan Robinson right at the top. He's playing Minnesota, so I want to say temper expectations just a little bit. Minnesota's defense still pretty good, despite kind of what we saw from Caleb and them. I'm expecting a lot out of Caleb Williams this year. I know I keep mentioning him, but Alvin Kamara, surprisingly, I think it was only 2 targets he got in week 1. He's going to be a strong start. But we need to see what they're going to keep doing with Spencer Rattler out there. I mean, he threw the ball like 47 times. So Alvin Kamara is closer to a strong start than a must start. Kareem Hunt, again, strictly in deeper leagues. I'm not really trying to... He split the workload evenly with Isaiah Pacheco, which, you know, I could scroll around and find him. We'll get to him eventually, but wasn't very pretty for the Chiefs running backs. James Cook, he gets the Jets. I would say he's still a strong start. Trey Benson's eaten into that workload just a little bit, carving his own role. He's the more explosive player, Trey Benson is, but, you know, 30-year-old James Conner is still getting the rock a lot. They want to run the ball. I think they could do that here this week. Aaron Jones, how many running back committees do we have in the NFL? Splitting a lot of the work there with Jordan Mason, but yeah, in PPR leagues, I would say he's closer to like a decent flex, even half PPR. These rankings here basically will be closer to a feeling of about half PPR. I'm not gonna go standard, not gonna go PPR. Don't want it to tailor it to one way or another. It's just more of where they should be ranking up here this week. Austin Eckler, man, we saw a Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt, Bill, as everybody likes to call him, and he likes to be called, I guess. But Austin Eckler is dealing with an injury. Bill might just have the backfield on a top 10 offense in the league. So Austin Eckler is close. He's like a weak flex. I've got to see, you know, if he does play. Obviously, we got to check out the practice reports. I'm recording this here on Wednesday, so something to monitor with Austin Eckler. I'd prefer. I mean, we'll get to Bill's rankings, but let's see. Saquon Barkley. Let's go ahead. We'll throw him closer to the top. I mean, he's got Kansas City. It's not the most ideal matchup. Nick Chubb. That's a deeper league type of play. Yeah, we're not really throwing Nick Chubb out there in any capacity. Josh Jacobs. I really like the Packers' defense. I like their offense as well, but if their defense is going to be this good, then Josh Jacobs is going to get a lot of work to close out games. It's going to be a nice game here. We've got the Packers versus the Commanders here in week 2. David Montgomery is I mean, again, we're talking about the Packers. They played the Packers in week 1. They didn't get anything going on the ground. That includes Jahmyr Gibbs. Was it the Packers defense? Was it no Ben Johnson? People are asking. But I would say David Montgomery is closer to like maybe a far end decent flex or a weak flex. I'm going to go with a decent flex. Got to put some respect on his name still. I'm not 100% sold it was Ben Johnson only. But yeah, we got to temper some expectations there with the Lions until we see something here in week 2. Tony Pollard, he saw basically all of the work for the Titans. That includes, you know, he just got everything. But they drew the short straw. They got the Broncos there in week 1. And week 2, I believe they get the Rams, which is another sneaky good defense. He's a decent flex. He's not a must start. Yeah, it's not the prettiest there for the Titans to start the season. And then Chicago, DeAndre Swift, I didn't think he looked bad. I mean, their offensive line looked pretty good. So yeah, he's going to be closer to it's like a strong, decent flex, a decent flex here. He's at the top of that there for me. And these guys are, for the most part, interchangeable. I mean, I'm not going to start Josh Jacobs over Christian McCaffrey, but if you got Josh Jacobs, you're probably starting him anyways. It's just more of a confidence feel with how these players should be playing here this week. J.K. Dobbins, they get Indianapolis. I really like the matchup. I think he is he's a decent flex. We're going to have a lot of people in the decent flex. You know, when it comes to running back, like there's not a lot of bell cows. We already talked about splitting carries here with, you know, as soon as you get to the decent flex and down, I mean, even a strong flex, you've got James Conner. He's over here having to split the carries with Trey Benson. So not a lot of bell cows. So there's going to be a lot of decent flex once we get done with this. Jonathan Taylor, he had a neck injury, but said he's good to go. So if he says he's good to go, I'm good to go with him. It's against Denver, so we're going to temper expectations just a little bit. But Jonathan Taylor is still in the strong start category. He's definitely got to be ahead of Kamara. And Travis Etienne, I was a believer in Travis Etienne in the offseason. I have him in Dynasty, so I'm a little biased. But I knew that he had, what we saw in 2024 just wasn't it. We knew that wasn't it. I watched Tank Biggs. I want the running back who can sustain a workload and can catch the ball. Tank Bigsby he's definitely a really good 1-2 runner, but he has bricks for hands. So there wasn't a possibility that I was going to be picking him as my option. I would have ranked them Travis Etienne in the offseason as far as like who I would like to draft at cost. Travis Etienne, and a few tiers down. Bashal Tutin, a few tiers down. Tank Bigsby. Got to have hands. You got to be able to catch the ball. If you really want that true upside, unless you're Derrick Henry, you need to catch or Saquon Barkley last year, I guess. He can catch the ball. He just simply doesn't. They didn't need him to when you rush for 2,000 yards. But Travis Etienne, sorry to go off on a tangent. Travis Etienne, I think here is in a strong start category against Cincinnati. That's going to be a really nice matchup here this week with the Cincinnati defense. Javonte Williams, another player that I was betting on in their backfield. I like Jaden Blue. It's more of like the unknown, but healthy scratch in week 1. Looking like another scratch here in week 2 as far as everything goes. And Javonte didn't look horrible against the Eagles. Eagles defensive front, as we know, pretty good. You know, you lose Carter immediately due to the Dak dispute and the spitting incident, but you know, it's going to open some things up and change your game plan just a little bit. But Javonte Williams, as far as volume goes, he seems like somebody who is he's going to get a lot of the workload. So I don't mind starting Javonte Williams there. It's against the Giants, another good defensive front. You know, temper expectations on that capacity, but I think he's still a decent flex. Chuba Hubbard got, I could be mistaken, but I think he got all of the running back work for Carolina. He looked really good in week 1, even catching some passes there. Like Chuba looks like, let me pull up his stats just real quick, because he in week 1, I don't have any shares of him, unfortunately, but I think he was a screaming value in drafts. Yeah, I mean, he's the running back 8 on the season, had a pretty good week 1, not a crazy yards per carry, and you'd like to see that against Jacksonville. But he gets Arizona, and then Atlanta. Like, we've got some good matchups here for Chuba Hubbard, so he's going to be a strong start here for the next couple weeks. Ramondre Stevenson, the biggest by far. We'll get to the other guy here in a little bit, talking about TreVeyon Henderson, but screw it, we'll do it now. Let's do TreVeyon Henderson. I got so many questions about TreVeyon in my start sit decisions. Like people were like, hey, should I start TreVeyon or this guy? And if you want to ask any of those, you're more than welcome to. It was week 1. We have no confidence. I didn't pick TreVeyon in a lot of the situations, which made me nervous because I know, and as we saw in preseason, he could take it anywhere from, anywhere on the field. He could take it to the house. Like he is an electric running back. And I think as the season progresses, Coach Vrabel, they're going to see a little bit more of that. But it could be a slow start, and it could be a timeshare for just a little bit as it goes. So TreVeyon Henderson is closer to like a a decent flex with upside. Him and Javonte Williams being side by side isn't really fair because they feel like polar opposites of player. You have Javonte Williams going to be a lot of volume. He's going to get the end zone carries or red zone carries, goal line carries, if you will, like once they get down there, but he's not going to break one free. Travion can, and we saw him in just the passing game in week 1, that he's got that prowess. So I think that he's a decent flex. If you're expecting big games, they can happen. It can happen on one play, but you got to also understand that his floor is a little lower outside of the pass catching. His floor can be a little lower here to start the season. So I'm going to put him in the decent flex category. Rolling back with Ramondre, I don't want to start. He's a weak flex. I wouldn't want to start him whatsoever, knowing that Travion, if he starts to have a good game, just they keep rolling him out there and they keep doing what they're doing. Like, it doesn't make any sense for them to possibly keep throwing him out there. And it's against Miami too. So this is a game where they could close the game out. Miami looked awful all around. So yeah, I think Stevenson is a guy that it's a weak flex. Could he plot into the end zone? Yeah. But I'm not super excited about him. Genuinely, not that excited. James Cook, he gets the Jets. I'm going to put him in the strong start category. He looked good in week 1 against the Ravens. I mean, I think he almost had a long breakaway touchdown, if that's the player I'm thinking of. Maybe it was Keon Coleman, but yeah, somebody got tackled, like a big, 40, 50 yard gain, and then got tackled like at the 3-yard line. So that always stinks when that happens because that's kind of Josh Allen territory, but sometimes it's James Cook territory as well. Kyren Williams, he gets Tennessee. I'm really excited about that. It's a super strong start. Again, these guys are kind of flexible. I mean, I'm going to move them around just a little bit here, but just understand that, yeah, you can kind of go any direction that you want with the strong start. Strong start, fellas. Kenneth Walker in week 1, he gave up so many carries here to Zach Charbonnet. It was insane. Charbonnet is the guy who he was the running back 6. If you took just the sample size of 2024, it was like the 6 games that he played, he started because Kenneth Walker was injured yet again. He was the running back 6. Like, he is electric with the ball in his hands. He can catch the ball. He looks bigger than I think they have him listed at like 215, which I think they have Kenneth Walker at the same, but they look like 2 different human beings. Zach Charbonnet, I would probably start over Kenneth Walker, but I don't think either one of them are great running backs at this moment. I mean, it's against Pittsburgh as well. Like, that's less than ideal. If you had to start one, I'm probably starting Kenneth Walker behind Zach Charbonnet until I see some more. Zach Charbonnet had more rushing attempts here just in week 1. And then surprisingly enough, Kenneth Walker, who got an uptick in receptions coming into last year than he had in his first and second year, but they're interchangeable. And if one of them were to get injured, which we don't bank on injuries, we don't want that to happen by any means, but if one of them were to get injured, that's when one's going to skyrocket all the way up to a strong, maybe even must-start category, because we've seen them without each other, and they're really good. Brian Robinson, this is a deep league play. I mean, we're expecting Christian McCaffrey and the Saints to kind of just pour it down. Christian McCaffrey against the Saints, pour it down their throats. And so, you might get Brian Robinson getting a little bit of run closer to the end of the game, kind of like a DJ Giddens did at the end of Indianapolis' game for Jonathan Taylor, kind of spelled him there. Don't start him outside of this week, but yeah, best of luck if you're doing that. And then Breece Hall. Breece Hall looked good in week 1. They're getting Buffalo, so this is where I would expect them to have to play catch up just a little bit. But what was it? The Jets just put up like 32 points against the Steelers. Like, they might have something here, but he's definitely. I'm going to throw him in probably about this range. You're coming in with another pass catcher or so. I think that he was a value in drafts now. I wasn't a huge fan of him because of what the offense. I mean, they want to run the ball, They can't always do that, though. You know, there's going to be a lot of situations where they're going to have to pass and they're going to have to dink and dunk, and Breece Hall is going to be that guy. Isaiah Pacheco, I'm going to go ahead and say it, and I'm going to put him here in the deep leagues category, kind of next to Kareem Hunt. Where he was drafted in a lot of drafts, you might have to start him. Like, he's probably a flex, especially if you're dealing with any kind of injuries or anything like that. But yeah, until I see more than 5 carries in a game, I'm not very optimistic. This is supposed to be his revenge tour. It's not supposed to be against fantasy managers. It's supposed to be against the opposition. But here we are. We're putting him in the deep leagues until I see just a little bit more. Jaylen Warren, contract extension. You know, he's getting a good portion of the carries there for the Steelers. Caleb Johnson had, 1 carry, a fumble on, I think it was a kickoff return. Like, Warren he's like a weaker flex for me here this week. He's playing the Seahawks. Like, that's, your league type is going to depend just a little bit more. He gets a bump up there, obviously, in PPR leagues. Kenneth Gainwell came into the fold. Like, there's some, and Kenneth Gainwell, I was just talking about him, so he's in an Eagles uniform here, but yeah, it's a deep leagues type of thing when you're starting a player like that. Jordan Mason looked pretty good in week 1. He looked like the better runner than Aaron Jones in week 1. He isn't a pass catcher. He hasn't been a pass catcher, even when you go back to college. But between the 1s and 2s, like, that's kind of where I'm okay with him. They play Atlanta, who, if Drake London doesn't play for whatever reason, I think they could definitely score a lot of points. So, yeah, Jordan Mason is going to go into like probably a weak flex category. It's probably a little bit safer. Jahmyr Gibbs, I'm throwing him right back out there. He's got to be up at the top with the other fellas. I expect we probably saw his worst game of the season. He gets Chicago here this week, who we're just talking about Jordan Mason and Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones just caught a touchdown against them. Like, I think they're going to get open. They're going to get wild, here in week 2 for the Lions. Devon Achane, let me double check on his status, because last I had saw he was still kind of dealing with something, I think, from the practice reports saying here without injury designation going into week 2. So yeah, all cylinders for Achane. So I'm comfortable having him as a strong start. I would probably put him. Yeah, he's got to be against Etienne. Etienne was at a fluke, so yeah, I'm gonna put him right up above Travis Etienne, which is a question people might have. I mean, Achane was going in the second round of a lot of drafts, or at the end of the first, just depending on how that went, and then Etienne going in like 7th, 8th, 9th round, depending on your format, and you could be staring down this decision. But I think Achane is definitely still the right pick. And if you have questions on start sit decisions, anything like that you come across, you can feel free. Go ahead. If you see my links there, you'll see on Twitter or X that you can go ahead and message me. I put out every single Thursday a start sit decision post, and so people will just throw up a couple of players, tell me the format that they're playing in, and then I'll give you my best bet on the most information that we have at that time on who to start. So it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. It really gets your brain turning. You can go through and look at some of the older comments and just see like, why would you pick this player over this player, and try to give you a little bit more context than I'm giving you maybe even right now inside of the video, just with practice reports and maybe changes that have happened over the course of the week. And then on Sunday Live, I'm all the way up until 1 hour before kickoff, I'll be live, and then we can chat it up. We can talk about game day weather. How's that going to affect it? Because we had, I think it was the Jags Carolina game. They had a huge weather delay, just like the Thursday night football. There's a weather delay, and then they come back out and they're not great on both those different games. Is there going to be weather in some of these games? So you can check all that out. It's also in the Discord. But if you want to check out any of the details once we get to like the snowy times and stuff like that, I'll be able to help out for sure. Chase Brown, he is electric. He should have had more points. I mean, his yards per carry weren't great in that game, but it was given the matchup just a little bit. Yeah, he's going to be great. He gets Jacksonville here this week. Bucky Irving, another player who may be underwhelmed for a lot of players, but I think is another strong start here going into the week. Trey Benson, we talked about him just a little bit when we talked about James Conner. He is somebody who is going to carve out a role here in this Carolina offense, or in the Cardinals offense, rather. Sorry. And if for whatever reason either one of those guys went down, much like the Seattle situation, that's going to skyrocket them in value because they'll have all the opportunities. There's no one else there, and I think Trey Benson, especially with his explosive, take it to the house from anywhere type of speed, I think that he is somebody who needs to be rostered one in every single league. Hopefully you got him off of waivers here most recently. But yeah, Trey Benson is somebody who's looking nice in his limited opportunities. Man, we're getting into the thick of it here. Tyrone Tracy, he gets Dallas, and we saw Dallas kind of shut down Saquon Barkley just a little bit. They split carries with Will Shipley, and A.J. Dillon even got some run in that game. But Tyrone Tracy, until I see just a little bit more, I need to see some more out of Tyrone Tracy before I'm confident in putting him into my lineup. You're in this weak flex category. You could be benched if you have better options. And there were some decent options here on the waiver wire here just this week. And speaking about waiver wire, Dylan Sampson. It was one of the questions somebody asked me that said, "Hey, should I drop Christian?" I think it was Christian Kirk was out, right? Said, "Hey, should I drop Christian Kirk for Dylan Sampson?" I was kind of leaning on the fence just a little bit, and turns out he was the waiver priority. I think I said not to pick him up because Quinshon Judkins is supposed to be coming back, and we don't really know what it is. Do you want to hold the backup running back for one of the worst offenses in the league? But it came out 8 targets, 8 receptions, didn't really do much on the ground. He had 12 carries on the ground, but it didn't come to much. But yeah, if those receptions stay, if he stays the third down back, the change of pace back, then Dylan Sampson could have some value there in, PPR leagues, I would say. But yeah, Dylan Sampson, as of right now, Quinshon Judkins, he's dealing with some stuff in New York with the NFL, trying to figure out his off-the-field issues stuff. So Dylan Sampson would definitely get a bump in my rankings to probably a decent flex against Baltimore because we know they're going to be playing from behind. And if we can get another 5-6 targets from him, what can he do with those? And hopefully he can break one or do a little bit better on the ground. But the reigning SEC running back of the year, player of the year, Dylan Sampson is a guy who I liked, but then he landed behind Judkins on the Browns. So situation bearing, this is where I'd probably rank him right now, but he could catapult all the way up to about right here if we saw that Judkins didn't play in week 2. And they might ease Judkins in. They should ease Quinshon Judkins in, especially with what they saw from Dylan Sampson in week 1. They probably want to get him kind of involved as well, a 1-2 punch. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. RJ Harvey, another rookie running back. We had a couple of rookie running backs coming up here. Matter of fact, they are all outside of Braylon Allen, which I'm going to put him into deep leagues. Now they're all rookie running backs down at the bottom of your screen. Where shall they all go? This is really how it's telling. RJ Harvey, man, he broke one away. He looked really nice. As far as, if he keeps doing stuff like that, it's going to push J.K. Dobbins off of the field slowly. I mean, J.K. Dobbins is still going to be there. He's going to be a thorn. But I think either one of those guys are one of those, if someone goes down type of situation, then you're pretty excited about whoever the new starter is. But I would put RJ Harvey probably about right here in a decent flex category. We've seen the speed. We know the talent. We just want to see, kind of just a little bit more of what they can do. Indianapolis is the matchup too, so that's pretty nice. That'd be a good game to get some run against. Cam Scatterbo, I'm going to go ahead and just put him in the deep leagues. We haven't seen enough, and that dude is using his head as like a battering ram. Dude's going to snap his neck in half. It's terrifying to watch him play NFL ball. Bashal Tootin, the man of the hour. We were talking about him just a few days ago. Tank Bigsby gets traded to the Eagles. They acquire him for a couple picks. opens up the door for Bashaw Tootin just a little bit. Maybe that's why he got just a little bit more run. You know, they used Travis Etienne a ton in week 1. I like Tootin a lot, but this is a player I'm not willing to start probably under really any circumstance until we get just a little bit more out of what's his role in the offense. Travis Etienne looked great, and why would you go away from him if he's looking great at the moment? So, yeah, I'm just going to stay there. Caleb Johnson, another guy who we haven't seen anything out of. We talked about him a little bit with Jalen Warren when we put him on the board, but Caleb Johnson is a guy who, and until we see it, keep him on your benches. Marion Hampton, he's so fun to watch play football. He didn't get that much run in week 1. He got all of the running back carries, but it just really didn't amount to much against Kansas City. He gets Vegas here this week. I think he's closer to like a strong start. I'd put him probably, maybe he's a decent flex, but he's drafted as a running back 2 for a lot of people. So I understand, obviously, going to be looking a little different when you see the rankings, but yeah, I'll put him a strong start. I'm cool with him there. We'll put him at the end of that. You can extend the what's this put him at? Is about running back 18 or so, 19. So yeah, that seems about right for a Marion Hampton. We just want to see a little bit more, and it was nice to see Najee only get 1 carry. You know, unless you have Najee, then maybe not. But Quinshon Judkins, if he starts again, we want to see the role between him and Dylan Sampson. Until we see kind of how that goes. He might not even play week 2. I've got him in here as a place marker, but if he doesn't play, totally understandable for people just waiting and seeing. If you can take that approach, I would try to take that approach. It's against Baltimore. But yeah, just kind of wait on that. And then Ashton Jeanty. Ashton Jeanty gets, let's see here. Ashton Jeanty gets the Chargers, which their defense has been revamped just a little bit. But yeah, I'd put him in the strong start category. I'm going to have him lower than a lot of people, I think. You know, running back 14, 15-ish. And then the last, of course, we got Bill here. Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt, like he is been picked up on a lot of waiver wires. If you had an opportunity to get him out there, he was rostered in about 70% of leagues, if I'm not mistaken. So if you had him already, kudos to you. But if not, I'm going to put him as a decent flex. And this is assuming that Austin Eckler is either out or doesn't have a role. But I would put him as a decent flex. Who did they get there this week? They get the Packers. Like I'm going to put him as a weak flex. Like I can't possibly put him over Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet at the moment. He feels like somebody you would be flexing in a lot of leagues, but maybe you are fortunate enough. I mean, you got him at the end of your drafts, 10th round or later for the most part. You know, so if you could just wait on him and see, much like Quinshon Judkins, much like Travion Henderson, if you have the opportunity to just kind of wait on some of these guys, then wait on them. That's going to be the best approach. But if you do have any other questions about your roster, questions about start-to-sit decisions, like I'll be happy to help you. You can find it over at the Discord. I've got a free Discord, and we're over there. We are doing. You can post your team on the Discord, and then I can go ahead and rank it, see kind of how you should move, what you should go for, like as far as, hey, I don't have a lot of running backs. What should I trade away to try to acquire one? Who to trade high on? Who to trade away? Maybe he had a good game and you weren't really expecting that. Like let's say a Zay Flowers. I think he's the wide receiver 1 right now. So if you have the opportunity to kind of sell high or buy low, then that's what I'm here to help you with. But until next time, I will see you guys in week 3 or Sunday. If you have any Sunday live questions, I'll be live on YouTube. But until then, I'll see you next week in week 3 with the running back rankings then.